The freight clerk stared at me, confused, when I handed over the court order and said, "That piano isn't yours to ship." My daughter-in-law froze, her lies crumbling under the depot lights. I didn't raise my voice. I just told the officer, "Seal it and log the serial," that night. Justice finally played its first note. The cab dropped me at the end of the gravel drive just as the sun folded into Lake Huron. The air should have smelled like cedar and salt, like the summers my husband and I spent varnishing this porch. Instead, it carried something foreign, cheap perfume from a plug-in, faint but sharp enough to make me pause. My suitcase wheels knocked over the same boards I stained 10 years ago, each clack like a heartbeat reminding me I was home. Yet the light spilling from my living room window said otherwise. Someone was inside. I froze. A woman's laugh fluttered through the open slider. Too young, too confident. Another voice, a man's, answered, arguing about centerpieces and angles. The word content slipped out between them, and my stomach tightened. I gripped the brass key that had hung on my husband's chain since 1983. It stuck in the lock. "Easy, girl," I murmured, my voice steady. "Old wood, old bones." The door clicked but didn't open. That creak of resistance had always been ours, like a password between two people who built something together. Now it felt like the house itself was thinking twice about letting me in. The wind chime was gone, a plastic mat reading, "Welcome home." Friends sat where my simple core one used to be. Not my font, not my life. Through the glass, shadows moved. I inhaled, squared my shoulders, and turned the key. The door swung wide into laughter and bright light. My living room had been rearranged. My husband's quilt vanished, replaced by a fake Lake Life print. Celine Voss stood barefoot on my rug, her phone held high, recording. Her father, Horace, leaned against the mantel like he owned the deed. "You have no right to be here," she said, smooth as a rehearsed line. I stepped inside, rolling my suitcase to the bench by the door. "Evening," I answered. "My key says otherwise." "Ma'am," Horace cut in, puffing his chest. "We'll need you to leave until this is sorted. You're trespassing." "That's a word for people without paperwork," I said, eyeing the console table that had replaced my piano. "I've got plenty." Celine's phone angled for a wider frame. She wanted the scene, the old woman cornered. I gave her posture instead, calmly. I walked to the kitchen island and rested my palm on the granite I'd chosen with my husband. Folks talk loud when they're unsure, I thought. People like me sign checks and keep receipts. Opening a side drawer, I pulled out the laminated tax bill, set it on the counter, and let the silence do the talking. "You've been gone for months," Celine said. "We kept the place up." And I looked at the scratched floor and the spilled wine drying near the vent. "You maintained it." "All right," I murmured. "Right into your phone feed." Horace thumbed his screen. "We're calling the cops." "Good," I said, pouring half a glass of Merlot. "They'll confirm whose name's on the deed." Celine whispered into her mic. "Yes, she's here. Won't leave." I took a slow sip. "I'm 68. Not invisible," I said softly. "Let's see who the law calls ma'am tonight." My phone buzzed. Called her. "Mom, don't make this worse." His words burned colder than any insult. Outside. Sirens drifted up the hill. Celine fluffed her hair, angling for sympathy. I straightened the collar of my jacket, smoothed my sleeve, and faced the window. The red and blue lights reflected across the lake like twin veins of fire. I breathed in through my nose, out through everything I'd learned not to say. The patrol car turned into my drive, tires whispering against gravel. I smiled, not for them, but for the deed folded neatly in my bag. I opened the door before anyone knocked. 2 officers stood there, hats off, trying to read the room before stepping in. "Evening, officers," I said. Tone steady. "You'll want the parcel number and the deed." I laid both documents flat on the entry table. No waving, no theatrics. Habit made me read out their badge numbers. Old habits from church committee audits die hard. One officer, younger, took notes. The other addressed Celine, who was busy smoothing her hair like this was a press call. "This isn't a lease matter," I told them. "It's property ownership." Celine's voice turned syrupy. She's been overseas. I think she's confused. 3 months in Lisbon, I corrected. Flight 426. Landed this morning. My electric bill paid June 3rd. Auto draft. Horace barked. She abandoned it. The officer lifted a hand. Sir, step back. That tone alone drew the line. My porch was no longer their stage. I added, the key in my pocket opens this door. The mortgage has been retired since 2019. Paper over noise. Gentlemen, they asked permission to walk through. You'll find my name on the mailbox, breaker panel, and insurance binder. I said, inside. The younger one verified every label while Celine fumbled through papers. We're primary residents, she insisted, flashing a printout. From where, he asked. Our files, she said, too quick. I pointed toward the console. That used to be my husband's piano. Those drag marks, fresh. Take note. Vindication flickered when my key opened the boathouse padlock. No forced entry here, the officer murmured. For the first time that night, the house seemed to nod with me. We circled back to the kitchen. The officer requested we keep it civil while he reviewed what he'd seen. I pay taxes here, I began. I carry insurance here. I keep receipts here. He smiled. Ma'am, that's pretty straightforward. I've balanced a checkbook since '79, I said. If it isn't on paper, it didn't happen. I showed him my latest bank statement, my name printed bold. Celine tried again, leaning on pity. She forgets things sometimes. I forget birthdays, I said. Not parcel numbers. The officer asked if she had any proof of authority. She didn't. I requested to photograph interior damage. He agreed, supervising. Only my items, not theirs. Understood, I said. The walk revealed absence louder than argument. My wedding photo gone from the mantel left a pale square of paint. The shelf that once held recipe cards now displayed untouched decor books. The floor where the piano stood wore new scars. I knelt and traced one. That scar wasn't here in April, I said softly. The officer wrote it down. Lavender planters replaced by plastic vines. The scent of fake gardenia hissed from a plug-in. Smells nice for cameras, I muttered. Not for living. In my bedroom. A hotel gray comforter erased our past. My husband's flannel gone. My Sunday dress missing. A lockbox sat on the dresser. I photographed it, untouched. A printed card read, Enjoy your stay at Lake Life. This room was ours, I said. Changing linens is taste. Removing history is intent. The officer's eyes met mine. He understood. Celine blurted, It's just staging. I picked up a party invitation from the console, reading the date aloud. For tonight, quite the open house. Back at the island, I wrote a clear incident log, date, time, who present, what observed. Each officer initialed the header. I photographed rooms in sequence, saved files with timestamps, texted them to Elias, my attorney. He replied fast. Secure access tonight, don't engage. I breathed in, slow. My calm wasn't surrender, it was strategy. They concluded it was a civil property dispute, advised both parties to maintain peace. Appreciate your professionalism, I told them, genuine. On the porch, one officer paused. Ma'am, he said, keep everything you did tonight. That's how folks win. Paper over noise, I replied. The patrol car rolled off. The house was quiet again, almost listening. My phone buzzed. Called her. Mom, Celine says you're escalating. Please don't embarrass us tonight. I stared at the words, then typed. Truth embarrasses no one who tells it. I didn't send it. Instead, I photographed the empty mantel where our picture once hung. If my son couldn't see me, maybe the paper would. The next morning, I walked into the bank where the tellers still knew my voice from pie drives and church fundraisers. The lobby smelled of coffee and printer toner. Morning, Nancy, I said. She smiled, then froze when she pulled up my account. Miss Klein, she murmured, lowering her tone. Your access was updated 2 weeks ago. The words updated and procedure sounded too polite for what they meant. My stomach went cold. Who authorized it? I asked. She hesitated, then said, It shows a power of attorney on file. I leaned closer. Whose signature? A redacted sheet slid across the counter. The agent name, Celine Voss. My own signature sat skewed and pixelated, like someone copied it off an old check. I didn't argue. Arguing is for amateurs. "Please print the audit trail number," I said. I noted it in my notebook, then asked for the branch manager. My voice stayed calm, the way women of my age were taught to stay composed while the floor shifted under them. On the porch later. I made calls. Homeowners insurance first. "Ma'am, your contact email was changed last month," the rep said. "New address on file, Celine Voss." I wrote every syllable. "When was that processed?" I asked. June 12th, I requested reversal and a fraud alert. Utilities were next. "Secondary authorization, S. Voss," the man said. "Still paying on autopay? Though, not for long," I muttered. Logging times and employee IDs. My pen moved faster than my pulse. I whispered an old truth I'd learned working city clerk jobs. If it isn't written down, it didn't happen. I emailed myself copies of everything, subject line, chain of custody, house accounts, Elias, my attorney. Got a short text. "POA surfaced. Signature looks wrong. Audit trails secured." By noon. The lake air had turned heavy. I called Calder. Told him to meet me at the dock. When he arrived, his face was softer than his tone. "Mom, Celine says you're not yourself. We had to step in." That word cut deeper than the forged signature. "Step in is not the same as take over," I said. "Did you sign anything?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Just a couple pages. Horace said it was temporary. Just to help with bills." I asked. "What doctor decided I'm incompetent?" He blinked. "No one. Just concern. Concern without paperwork is love," I told him. "Control with paperwork is theft." The wind slapped the dock line. Sharp as a gavel. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "You've been gone. Mom, people talk." I was gone for 90 days. Not a decade, I said. Mortgage paid off 2019. Property tax current. Receipts in the file cabinet, they replaced with decor books. He sighed. "Please don't make this ugly." I smiled without warmth. "Ugly is what truth looks like when it shows up on time." I didn't shout. I listed facts, bank log, insurance change, utilities, the fake POA. "You need to rescind your signature." Calder. "Do it before this becomes criminal." He looked torn. "Celine will be furious," I nodded. "Then you'll finally meet her real face." By late afternoon, I packed a small overnight bag, IDs, meds, flash drive, copies of the deed. I left everything else untouched. No one would say I tampered. On the kitchen island, I placed a typed notice. "Preserve property. Cease alterations." I sealed my spare key in an envelope labeled "Chain of Evidence." Entry. Filmed myself doing it and locked it in my glove box. As I pulled away from the house, the lake shimmered behind me like a truth I couldn't unsee. Dusk had a bruised color, somewhere between grief and resolve. Then, by the bait shop. Arlen Whitby waved both arms. "Myrna," he called, breathless. "I saw their truck. Backing up to your deck at night. You might want to see something." My fingers tightened on the wheel. Steady at 10 and 2, the way my husband taught me. The next move wouldn't be anger. It would be record. If my son couldn't stand with me yet, maybe the camera would. Arlen's den smelled of cedar polish and last night's coffee. He adjusted his glasses and tapped the keyboard. "You ready, Myrna?" he asked. I nodded, palms flat on my knees. The first clip flickered alive on his old monitor. My deck under the floodlight. 2 silhouettes hauling boxes marked piano bench and photo totes. The pickups plate glinted clear as daylight. "That's my handwriting," I whispered. The next clip showed Celine in profile. Phone to her ear, Horace stacking furniture like he owned it, from the deck cam. Audio leaked. "List it. Cash only. Don't post the brand." My throat went dry. I wrote down every timestamp, every box label, every movement, while Arlen burned a copy to a thumb drive. When it ended, he leaned back and said softly, "You got him, Myrna. Plain as rain." I smiled faintly. "You just did a good deed for an old girl's peace of mind." Outside, the night felt cleaner. I sat in my car and recorded a voice memo describing each clip. naming who handled what. Drive A, I said into the phone mic. Sealed at 22:17 hours. I photographed the file's metadata and the monitor's timestamp, and then zipped the drive into a bag labeled with my initials and date. Drive B went into my purse. Redundancy was the friend of justice. I whispered to the windshield. Lord, keep the paper straight, even if the people won't be. Then I texted Elias, chain secured. Witness ready. By morning, I was in his office downtown. Elias looked like a man who'd slept at his desk, tie crooked, coffee black. I slid the forged POA copy and insurance printouts across to him. He peered through his bifocals and said, Your signature is a JPEG overlay. Look, the pixel edges. He pointed to the date field. And this format, not even Michigan standard. He chuckled grimly. They didn't even bother to copy from the right statute. We cross-referenced utilities emails. The IPs traced back to Horace's company. That's a pattern, he said. Administrative capture before liquidation. Classic setup. His words landed heavy but clean. We're filing a preservation letter tonight and a restraining order first thing. We drafted it together. Quiet but quick. No deletion of digital files, photos, or sale listings. Elias dictated. I added Arlen stills and my mantle shot as exhibits. The list of recipients grew. Celine, Horace, the bank, insurance, HOA, even the antique dealer I'd seen at their parties. Paper over noise, I said. Elias grinned. Good line, we'll use it. When he asked if I wanted to confront them, I shook my head. I've yelled enough in my lifetime. Let the court do it this time. Back home. I locked down my accounts, set credit freezes, and opened a new checking account for legal fees. Just my name. No shared ties. I sent Calder a short text. Formal review underway. Don't sign another thing. My heart ached typing it, but I refused to let guilt drown reason. I filed the deed and receipts in a folder labeled Hearing Exhibit A and placed it in the passenger seat like a co-pilot. At dusk, my phone pinged. A public post from Celine's account. New Lake House era, soft opening tonight, 9 p.m. My address printed bold. Hosted by Celine Voss, with a donation QR. The comment section bubbled with emojis and clapping hands. I saved it as Exhibit Imam Party Post and forwarded it to Elias. His reply came seconds later. Perfect. TRO ex parte. Sit tight. I stared through the windshield at the calm lake reflecting porch lights that weren't mine. My voice came out low. They wanted an audience. I'll give them a judge. At 9. They'd raise their glasses. At 9:05, a process server would knock. I parked 2 houses down, headlights off. The summer air buzzed with music and cheap laughter rolling from my porch, the same porch I'd sanded with my husband 20 years ago. The process server checked his clipboard and handed me one envelope. You sure you want to watch this, ma'am? He asked. I smiled, small but sure. I built that threshold. I'll see it respected. Elias's voice came steady through my phone speaker. No speeches. Myrna, serve, log, leave. I repeated his words softly. Paper over noise. At exactly 9:05, the knock echoed across the yard. I stayed on the sidewalk. Camera steady. Celine opened the door, phone in hand, already live. The server read each name clearly. Celine, Horace, Delphine. Then placed the TRO letters neatly at her feet when she refused. Michigan law didn't need her permission. Inside, someone killed the music. I could hear whispers. Is this real? I zoomed in on the house number, the paper on the porch, the frozen faces. Celine turned her phone toward me. Here she is, starting drama. Her voice carried that performative edge meant for viewers, not people. I lifted 2 fingers in greeting. Evening. Folks, court order says no removals or sales until hearing. Simple as that. Horace barked, trespass, from somewhere behind her. I stepped back to the sidewalk. Public right of way, I said. I'm fine here, a young man filming asked. Is this legit? I answered. Case numbers printed right there. Call the clerk's line Monday. Delphine tried a guilt play. You're embarrassing the family. I met her eyes through the phone lens. Neighbors keep each other honest. You all have a safe night. I ended my own recording and pocketed the phone. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Minutes later, Celine switched tactics. She held up her phone showing what she claimed was a doctor's letter about my supposed memory decline. I stepped forward just enough for her mic to catch my words. Doctor's full name and license number. Please, she stuttered, dodging. I called Elias on speaker. He patched to the state board's automated directory. No such physician listed, I repeated for my camera. No verification, no credibility. A few guests exchanged uneasy looks. One whispered, "You said she'd been diagnosed." Their doubt cracked her show. I captured screenshots, call logs, and emailed them to myself titled Exhibit C. Non-verified physician. I didn't need volume. Truth made its own noise. I read the return of service out loud to my phone. Names, times, license number. Though, the house is under TRO, I said clearly. Commercial use paused. I filmed scuffed floors through the doorway, crushed lavender on the porch. Proof enough without trespassing. Preserve it as is. I told the air. We'll see daylight with a judge. Calder appeared, voice tight. Mom, you didn't have to humiliate us. I turned. Steady. Court papers don't humiliate. Behavior does. His jaw worked. Shame flickering behind anger. Horace strode out, finger raised. I lifted my phone, spoke the date and his full name. The finger dropped. Delphine whispered, "You could have kept it in the family." I glanced back at the house. Family doesn't sell a woman's life by the box. A neighbor's porch light snapped on. Silent witness. My phone buzzed. Arlen's text read, Secure Store, Unit 47. After hours receipt, 8:42 p.m. The photo showed Horace's last name on the keypad log, timestamp overlapping the party. I forwarded it to Elias. Movement on the boxes. His reply came quick. Perfect. Tomorrow, injunction and lock change. I exhaled slow, watching the porch lights dim. If they wanted to curate my history, I murmured, a judge will curate their next move. By 8:15 that morning, I was sitting outside courtroom 2 with Elias Brandt, the air thick with coffee and copier toner. My folder sat on my lap, each exhibit tabbed and labeled like battle armor. Drive A with Arlen's footage, Exhibit B, the party flyer, Exhibit C, the fake doctor letter, plus the deed and account logs. Calder sat 3 benches down, shoulders hunched, face pale. Celine whispered rapidly to Horace and Delphine. Their lawyer, swiping through his tablet like speed, could rewrite facts. Elias leaned close. Answer what's asked. No speeches. Paper over noise. I nodded, repeating it softly under my breath. Arlen arrived. Work jacket still dusted with sawdust. Thumb drive safe in his pocket. The bailiff posted the docket. Our number blinked third. Judge Pike, Elias murmured. Likes facts, hates theatrics. I could work with that, a sus. When our case was called, I followed Elias inside. Judge Lenora Pike looked like she had been carved out of patience and deadlines. No wasted movement, no indulgence. She confirmed names, swore us in, and gestured for counsel. Elias opened clean. Your Honor, we seek extension of the TRO, enforcement of possession and restoration of account access. The opposing attorney started spinning the same web. Ms. Klein is disoriented post-travel, and waved that doctor's letter again. Judge Pike asked, Is the physician present? Do you have an affidavit? The man stammered, No, Your Honor. Then we proceed on admissible evidence, she said flatly. My oath felt heavier when I took it. I told her what I'd found. The locks, the party flyer, the changed accounts, no embroidery, just dates and deeds. When Elias presented Exhibit A, the bailiff dimmed the lights. Arlen's video played on the wall. My porch, my deck, my things being carried into a truck under a moon I hadn't seen. Each label was legible. Photo totes. Piano bench? When Horace muttered it was a borrowed chair. Elias froze the frame, showing the burned initials under the rocker slat. The judge's brow twitched. Exhibit B followed, that soft opening flyer with my address and a QR code for donations. A gasp rippled across the courtroom. Then Exhibit C, the non-existent doctor. Elias narrated the calls. The no-match directory result. Judge Pike set her pen down. Parties use this property for profit while under dispute, she said. That ends today. When Calder was called, the room shifted. He looked smaller under oath. He admitted signing pages Horace gave him, thinking they were just to help with bills. He never read them, never saw a doctor, never asked. Celine said Mom wasn't herself, he said, voice cracking. I believed her, Elias asked quietly. Did you know about the party? Calder shook his head. I saw it online after... I didn't look at him. The judge's tone softened only slightly. Being a son doesn't excuse negligence. You owe your mother truth, not trust misplaced. Then came the orders. TRO extended. Full compliance in 14 days. Inventory, returns, no sales, no guests, insurance. Email, utilities to revert under court directive. A neutral locksmith to rekey under sheriff's supervision. 7 days for a status check. 30 for a hearing. The judge's voice carried steel. Consequences are present tense, she said, denying their stay request. The gavel struck once. Final as a closing door. Outside. Celine tried recording again. Elias blocked her path. All communication through counsel, he said evenly. Delphine whispered. We were helping. I met her eyes. Helpers don't need keys, they changed. On the steps. Calder lingered. Mom, I didn't know, I answered. Then write it down. Rescind every signature. That's how you start knowing. Arlen patted my arm. You held the line. We'll keep it straight till it stands, I said. Elias handed me the signed order, ink still damp. For the first time in weeks, the lake house had a voice stronger than rumor. We were halfway to the car when Officer Duffy called. Ma'am, he said, a deputy's at Secure Store. Unit 47's being opened right now. Elias's hand tightened around the order. We're going, he said. I fastened my seatbelt at 10 and 2. Heart steady, evidence first, feelings later. If my life was priced by the box, I'd be there when the receipt got torn up. The air inside the Secure Store office carried that faint metal tang of locks and dust, like time in a jar. Officer Ramon Duffy waited by the counter. Clipboard in hand, Judge Pike's seal crisp on the page. We logged our arrival, the ink still wet from the courthouse. Elias leaned on the counter, asking the manager for lease files and the access log. Name on the unit? Horace Voss, the man said, printing copies with the dull rhythm of a fax. I turned on my phone camera, narrating for the record. July 12th, 1:34 p.m. Unit 47. Court-ordered retrieval. Duffy outlined the plan, 2-person entry rule, full photo documentation. Elias checked the seal on the lock. New brass, unweathered. Fresh, he murmured. I steadied my breathing. Paper over noise, I reminded myself, voice barely a whisper. The roll-up door groaned as it lifted, dust swirling in afternoon light. The first thing I saw was Margaret's quilt, creased wrong, folded by strangers who never knew her corners. Boxes stacked to the ceiling bore labels in my handwriting. Dining Klein. Sheet music. China. Fragile. My pulse thudded when I saw a crate marked Sell First. Inside, the piano bench turned backward. The hymn book opened to a page she'd played every Easter. Elias placed neon tags. Duffy photographed each angle. I opened one shallow bin, empty jewelry trays, price tags still taped inside, a pawn slip tucked under tissue. My fingers hovered but didn't touch. Items appear curated for resale, I said evenly. We will not sort, we will document. Then came the sound of tires on gravel. Celine's voice carried before her face appeared. That's our lease, our lock, our stuff. She held her phone high, streaming. Duffy raised a palm, quoting the TRO verbatim. Property is disputed and preserved under court order. Horace tried swagger. We paid storage fees, Elias countered. Payment doesn't make theft legal. Celine swung her lens toward me. Elder drama, she smirked. I held the order up, reading one line clear enough for her mic. No sale, removal, out, or alteration pending hearing. Delphine's tone turned syrupy. We were sorting to help. Elias only glanced at the red corridor camera. Then the footage will show how much help was given. Even the manager stiffened, realizing this wasn't just storage, it was evidence. The manager printed the entry logs. Horace's code last used the night before. Celine's guest code twice over the weekend. Elias flipped open a folder labeled Receipts. Inside were slips from Bayview Antiques and North Shore Loans. Steinway bench accessories. Sterling flatware. Photo lot. I felt my throat tighten. Elias sealed them into evidence envelope A3. Duffy signed and I countersigned. Chain of custody established, Elias said into his recorder. At the end of the corridor, Calder appeared. No camera, no entourage. Just my boy, standing in his own shadow. Calder, I said quietly. The judge said your words belong on paper. He walked to Duffy and asked how. Within minutes, Elias drafted a one-page declaration. No doctor, no consent. Rescission of signatures under pressure. Calder signed every line. I didn't look up until I felt the air shift. Thank you for choosing paper, I said. He swallowed. I'll help load it back, I answered. You'll help count it first. Under Duffy's direction, we began reclaiming the pieces of a life. Quilts, photo albums, recipe cards tucked in plastic sleeves, the metronome still ticking faintly when nudged. Neighbor volunteers came with padded blankets, each tote logged, each name written. The piano bench went last. I traced the worn edge where Margaret's thumb once rested. She taught half this town to play, I murmured. Celine scoffed. Duffy nodded toward her phone. Ma'am, record all you want. The order stands. When the last tote closed, the hollow of the unit echoed like a chapel. By then, word had spread. Bayview Antiques called to say they'd freeze resale. A refund ledger arrived by email. Arlen posted a silent 2-minute clip. No music, no commentary, just order, dust, and the hymn book. Comments flooded in. Neighbors, church friends, strangers saying, "Hold the line, Miss Klein." The HOA president texted, "Violations for the party filed. The QR platform issued refunds under event misrepresentation," Delphine hissed. "You're ruining us here," I said. "You did that with a flyer." Elias finished a stipulation. The Voss family to submit item lists within 48 hours. Proceeds to escrow. Calder nodded, promising to send addresses. "If you want a relationship," I told him, "it starts with inventory and truth." "Yes, ma'am," he said. Celine sneered one last time. "You can't prove that quilt's yours." I lifted the corner seam toward her lens. M-E-C. Margaret Elaine Klein. Stitchwork doesn't lie. She went silent. As the door slid down, Arlen's hand brushed a loose lip of metal. "Hold up," he said. Underneath was a notebook labeled Lake Moves in Celine's handwriting. Inside, dates, buyers, cash totals, and one chilling line. Piano pickup, bill of lading hash 7,745, tonight 9:30 p.m., Bay City Freight. Elias photographed every page. Duffy radio dispatch to freeze the shipment. My voice didn't shake when I said, Exhibit E, Celine's disposition ledger. If they meant to ship Margaret's music out of Michigan by nightfall, they just ran out of night. The Bay City Freight Depot hummed under sodium lights, that cold orange glow flattening everything into steel and shadow. Elias. Officer Duffy and I stepped inside with Judge Pike's order still warm from the printer. The dispatcher scanned the page and nodded. Bill of lading, 7745. Held, ma'am. Tagged for Cleveland. The forklift idled nearby. The supervisor frowned. Manifest says bench accessories, but the crate's marked music console. Odd labeling. Duffy recited from the order, voice calm but final, and sealed the pallet with yellow tape. I recorded on my phone. July 12th, 22:40 hours, freight intercept Klein v. Voss. Calder stood beside me. Quiet. Paper over noise, I whispered. Eyes open. And they pried the crate open. Padding fell away like discarded lies. Inside, Margaret's baby grand, dismantled, wrapped in old sheets. Her sheet music packed into the bench. Photo frames jammed between pedals. Arlen filmed the reveal. Duffy photographed the serial numbers while Elias read them aloud. Matching the insurance record, I saw a pouch taped under the slat. Pawn slips, cash notes, initials S. V, an H, V. My throat burned, but I kept steady. "This," I said for the record, "is Margaret's voice." The supervisor signed the cargo irregularity report. Duffy resealed the pallet and Calder helped, eyes wet. "You lift from the middle," I told him. "Not the rim, same as when you were 10. By midnight, paperwork filled the depot counter. Elias completed the custody form. Duffy logged the seal numbers, and the depot clerk photocopied everything twice. We caught the consignee line, Kellerman Clearinghouse, Cleveland, Celine's trail to her next scam. Elias emailed his paralegal to draft subpoenas before sunrise. Calder added his statements, naming Horace and Celine as the packers. I called the HOA's bylaw tip line, leaving 30 measured seconds. Lake House property confirmed preserved under court order. Arlen texted the neighborhood group. Piano found. Assembly help needed. Morning Light found us back in Tawas City District Court. Judge Pike presided with that same no-nonsense tone. Elias requested to convert the TRO into a preliminary injunction, submitting freight and ledger evidence. Celine's lawyer muttered about family intervention. Elias simply displayed the Cleveland Bill of Lading and Celine's forged POA. Horace started to argue. The judge's eyebrows silenced him faster than any gavel. Calder read his declaration aloud, voice low but clear. No evaluation, no diagnosis, no consent, only pressure. Judge Pike nodded. Honesty is corrective medicine. Mr. Reese. The order came swift. Restitution of all property, a 2-year no-contact clause for Celine, Horace, and Delphine, and referral to the prosecutor for potential forgery. I added one petition, to transfer the lake house into the Margaret E. Klein Irrevocable Trust, me as trustee, Calder conditional beneficiary, Judge Pike signed, ink spread like dawn, back home. The HOA issued fines for the unauthorized party. The QR fundraiser platform refunded every donor. Bayview Antiques returned my silver set and called it a moral refund. Arlen posted one still, my hand resting on Margaret's quilt initials, with the caption, "Back where it belongs." I posted 3 lines. Court orders executed, trust recorded. Thank you. Oscoda. No hashtags, no victory laps. Elias arrived with the locksmith before noon. New locks, new codes, fresh start. The title office emailed confirmation. Deed transferred to trust. I handed Calder a 1-page covenant. Therapy, restitution, and respect. He signed. Together, we reassembled Margaret's piano under warm lake light. When the final key fell into place, I said, "This house breathes on memory, not myth." He smiled, quiet, humbled. At sunset, I played "His Eye is on the Sparrow." Arlen brought sweet tea. Calder leaned in the doorway, waiting for my nod before stepping in. I sent Officer Duffy a picture of the finished bench. His reply came simple. Paper over noise. 2 days later, certified mail landed, an internal email from Cleveland. Celine had requested cash on pickup, using a fake POA with my name spelled wrong. Elias forwarded it to the DA. Add to charging packet. I placed 3 envelopes on my hall table. 1 donation to the high school music fund, 1 retainer for a local legal aid group, 1 letter for Margaret. Your piano sings again. When the DA's envelope reached Celine's porch, mine rested on the piano. 2 deliveries, 2 destinies, both signed for. Just as I set the last page of the court order into the drawer, a sharp knock echoed through the quiet lake house. Through the window, a white envelope lay on the porch. No return address. Just my name written in Calder's handwriting. My breath caught. Was this closure or the start of another reckoning?